Hello and welcome guys to yet another status report for the week of the 6th of October, 2014. First up, we have an image showing the whole of Chernarus Plus, covered in little yellow dots, and what this shows is the amount of deaths over a 12-hour period and their location on one experimental branch 0.50 server. As you can see, the expected large amount of player deaths occur along with player spawn points. However, what is increasingly fascinating is the large spread of unique player deaths across the map, from as far out as Kamenka to Tolga, Scalisi Island, and Devil's Castle. Producer Brian Hicks would like to imagine the lone player death at Green Mountain was an epic last stand gunfight, but we may never know. In addition to the obvious value to the data shown, analyzing data like this will become increasingly valuable for the development of core gameplay systems, as well as Chernarus Plus over the coming days and months. Producer Brian Hicks then goes on to mention, in addition to work done on player data tracking, the gameplay programming team has worked hard on increasing server-side performance optimizations as well as server-side security updates related to player position tracking. 0.49 introduced a good deal of server-side performance enhancement and addressed quite a few critical issues with stability. However, with these fixes came several new issues that they hope to see resolved with the stable release at the end of the month. They hope to finish out October with 50 player servers, persistence enabled by standard, and faster server performance across all servers on stable branch. As they progress, the status reports will keep the player base updated on these goals and any potential delays. From there, lead artist Chris Torchia talks about tech. Work continues on the graphical bug associated with our 3D camo, and it has turned out to be more troublesome than originally thought. While the programmers were tinkering about with shaders in search for fix, we were able to have an additional channel added to the shader used for most of the loot items, which will allow us to procedurally change the color of objects via config. The designers will evaluate how and when to implement such a feature, but I am hopeful it will lead to a lot more color customization options on a lot more items than we currently allow. We also got support for colorizing the grass shader so that we can vary the color of patches of grass in a large field, adding some visual flair to the environment. Chris then goes on to talk about character art, and the first woman's clothing item is done, 3/4 length pants. It will be added in the not so distant future, along with women's shorts and a sweater. The prison uniform, which was paused pending a few high priority tasks, is work in progress again. We will have to pause the creation of new zombie types temporarily to work on some tweaks to the skeleton, which were asked for by the programming and animation team related to new zombie AI animation triggers. The team in Bratislava is working on various crafted items from leather, which he hopes will be interesting to people who like to play in more of a PvE style. And finally, Chris goes on to mention weapons. The Derringer art is close to being ready to be passed along the chain. Animation, sound, CFG, the AKS74U and AKM are being polished along with the art asset related to 5.45mm ammo. Chris has also set this as a goal for himself, that by the end of October the AK-74 family will debut on Experimental. Next up, we have some information from lead animator Victor. After introducing one-handed pistol animations, many visual bugs had to be fixed to provide smooth and polished experience. Part of that is polishing and replacing some unarmed moves while standing. First of upcoming minor changes is a new unarmed sprint and unarmed run should follow. When they finalize those, they can polish other animations like running with binoculars, pistols, and other one-handed items. Victor then goes on to mention, "We are still processing the last mocap animations, as these should be ready for improved zombie AI, and many new attacks for zombies are being created so we can prototype and test different zombie combat situations. We already have a first iteration of tools for new animation systems, and it looks great. If all goes as planned, they would like to introduce zombies on the new system as soon as it will be possible. After all, they already have a deer running around using the new system, just internally for now, and it's already a visible improvement." But Victor does mention that it is still a long way to go until we can use all of the great features of the new animation system. And finally, we have some information from lead designer Peter, who starts off by saying, "Last week was pretty hectic. We brought a bunch of different assets from our backlog to the game, like the leather sewing kit, so you can finally repair your leather clothes and shoes. RDG2 tube, also known as the smoke grenade, sardines, this time alive, not canned, welding and firefighter helmet to cover your head, brass knuckles and a sledgehammer to crunch some bones. All of these things should spawn in game along with long time awaited MP133 and R92. And finally, lead designer Peter goes on to mention the basics of construction and base building by saying, "We also open discussion which will help us to outline construction design and its mechanics. We are analysing what's possible and where the borders are so we can decide upon crucial things like how they will be placed, freely or grid-based, what the granularity of objects will be, down to logs, whole walls or perhaps complete floors. How the crafting of these objects will be done, just a recipe or actually stacking. There are many important things which will define player experience of creating, using and ambushing bases, and that there are interesting times ahead. Probably we will need some dungarees in the future." So there you go guys, it's all interesting stuff for this status report for the week of the 6th of October 2014. Remember, I always recommend you read the status report yourselves to get the full amount of information. All links will be in the description, as well as for DayZ TV for all your latest and greatest DayZ news. And as lead designer Peter said, I'll see you in Generous, folks.